So we're expecting 70 cents, which is about 5 cents above consensus. I'll remind your viewers that Nike beat consensus, beat expectations last quarter by about 7 cents. And so what we've seen is a consistent track record of upside to both earnings and on the top line revenue. And that's been driven by accelerating trends across their entire business.
On the revenue line, what have you seen from other retailers that have reported, and does that make you optimistic for Nike?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good point. What we've seen from Nike's #1 global retail partner, Foot Locker, the best same-store sales increase since the first quarter of 2014, a 10% same-store sales increase at their #1 retail partner. How does that look relative to the rest of the retail industry? That puts Foot Locker in the top 5 of all retailers in the United States. So we're pretty optimistic that from Foot Locker's strength, Nike's strength will continue.
What about on the margin expectation?
Yeah, margin expectation is for roughly 60, 70 basis points of gross margin expansion. That's in line with what we've seen over the last couple of quarters. Could that be a little bit light relative to some of the more overly optimistic expectations? Yeah, we think it could be. But what Nike is doing is putting up that consistent, solid increase going forward, and they're reinvesting that potential upside that some people might be a little optimistic about back into their product, back into growth, and that's why we've seen sustainable growth from Nike over the last last year.
There have been a couple of product launches in recent months. Matthew, what do you make of those, and will we get updates on those later today?
Yeah, we're very excited about the Air Max 720 from our channel checks, both at Foot Locker and in other retail stores or chains. That shoe has become a hot commodity. So what you've seen is continued iteration on the Air Max platform. They had the Air Max 270 last year. That was a very strong launch, a very strong product. Before that, you had the launch of the Air Vapor Max, again, all a part of the Max family. So we expect continued acceleration from this new product that launched, I believe, on February 1st. The other one is kind of interesting, and I think you might want to be interested in this or talk about this, is the Adapt BB, which is the first scalable platform for Nike's adaptive technology, where the shoe itself conforms to your foot. You can control the shoe, the sizing of the shoe on your app, and you can actually make it get tighter, thinner, whatever. They launched this with the All-Star Weekend, NBA All-Star Weekend, and we've seen a lot of hype around that and expect that to be a pretty hot seller as we progress throughout the year.
I tried them on, in fact.
You did?
Yeah, on Closing Bell we had them. I didn't really like them. They kind of were a little. I've got kind of big feet anyway, and they're a bit more clunky having all the tech in it. So I felt like I looked like.
Yeah, you know what that means too. That means you wear big socks. Anyway, Matthew, thinking about
selfie stick.
Yeah, thinking about the tournament and everything. I mean, there's a lot going on with Zion. I mean, he may someday have a Nike shoe, don't you think? But then you got to remember the Nike shoe exploded on him and took him out for a few games, and those games weren't nearly as good when he was out, and people paid a lot of money, right, to see him. And we're going to see how well Duke. I mean, there are some very high expectations for how far Duke goes, whether they go all the way, and for him. And it could matter on whether he gets a huge deal from Nike someday. Or all these things. Might even call it Dookie instead of Nike.
Well, I a couple of points to make on that. Number one, he performed exceptionally well when he beat my Florida State Seminoles in the ACC championship. So I think he's back to form in his Nike shoes. But more importantly, two other things on this. In order for some other competitor to take advantage of that, which is what was speculated a lot in the media, they would have to make a good shoe. And we haven't seen really good basketball shoes from any brand in well over a decade. That's the reason why Nike has 90% market share of the basketball shoe market, which is just crazy when you think about that in the context of other retailers and other brands and their market share. When you think about that, how many Nike shoes are on the court, how often those players are playing in those shoes, a 1 in a billion chance that something like that would happen, your odds are probably better to win the Powerball last night, the $550 million. So I honestly, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. I think there's probably some.
There are changing of the. I guess there's still Air Jordans and stuff, and LeBron obviously, but we do move forward, and the hot shoe could be Zion eventually, right?
I mean, I think it could, and that could be. He's talked about like the greatest player to come from college basketball since KD. KD has a shoe. It's a hot shoe. This is likely going to be the next hot shoe, and I would suspect that he's likely going to sign with the people who have the dominant market share that can continue to iterate and put out.
Crazy.
Yeah.